But when it comes to Ukraine as well, certain analysts often emphasize manpower. And despite the bravery that we've seen from the Ukrainian armed forces, the ingenuity, innovation around asymmetrical warfare, for example, why is it that Ukraine hasn't been able to turn more of these things into strategic breakthroughs, like we saw with the counteroffensive in August of 22?
Well, first of all, I think the nature of the war in Ukraine has changed dramatically from the point where you mentioned, to which you referred, when Ukraine was able to counterattack very successfully um, in the fall of the first year of the war. But since then, lines have hardened very substantially. The Surovikin line, named for the Russian general who established the multi-layered defensive fortifications in the southern part of Ukraine, which was one of the factors that stymied the effort by Ukraine in that second summer to continue its counteroffensive operations, but also now the advent of massive numbers of unmanned systems that are always over the battlefield and have ubiquitous surveillance, with the exception of periods of very heavy fog or exceedingly foul weather. And that means that the front lines, such as there are now, and they're no longer clearly defined by trenches and uh, barbed wire and concertina wire minefields and all the rest of that. They're much more, again, combat outposts of elements, particularly on the Ukrainian side, because it's so lethal to be in the area of the front lines, if you will, the forward edge of the battlefield for each of those sides. I think it really is remarkable, actually, that Ukraine has turned its incredible innovation in air, ground, and maritime systems. And at the sea, I think this has translated into very substantial strategic achievements. Essentially, the Ukrainians, without a navy, have sunk over 35% of the Russian Black Sea fleet and forced the entire fleet to tie itself up inside a port as far from Ukraine as it can get in southeastern part of the Black Sea. Ukraine has also carried out some incredible operations on Russian soil through the year, including the one in which maybe $1 million or so worth of small Ukrainian drones secreted in the roofs of large transport vehicles were able to position themselves near strategic airfields of Russia's thousands of kilometers apart and destroy or damage some $5 to $7 billion worth of strategic aircraft. To be sure, again, on the front lines, they've largely hardened, and the gains, such as they are, have generally been on the side of the Russians, but these have been glacial. They've been quite incremental, and they have been incredibly costly for the Russians. So I think this innovation, but it's innovation on both sides, because the Russians have also uh, become quite innovative as well. They've also learned some very hard lessons, and they are presenting many more challenges for the Ukrainians. It's very much a back and forth between each side, trying to find some new capability or some new breakthrough that can enable them to do what it is that they want to do, whether on the ground, in the air, or at sea.
To me, the characteristics around what we're seeing now on the Russian side is quite reflective of what we've seen in the Second World War, for example, where the Soviets did eventually begin to sort of catch up